Hi everyone, I'm Suchetna Ray, Senior Assistant Editor of the Economic Times, and it's a pleasure to moderate this session today. The topic is Reimagining Customer Communication for Financial Services Industry and is brought to you by the Economic Times and Exitel.
Before we begin, we have a strong panel with us, so let's do a quick round of introductions. Please join me in welcoming Anand Pejawar, President Operations, IT and International Business at SBI Life Insurance. We have Ratan Kesh, EVP and Head of Retail Operations and Service, Axis Bank. Hi Ratan.
Hello,
welcome.
everyone.
We have Prakash Kagdani, CEO of 5paisa.com. Hello Prakash.
We also have with us Rohit Ambosta, CIO Sharekhan by BNP Paribas.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hi. Suhail Ghai, EVP and CTO, Max Life Insurance Company. Hi Suhail. Shiv Kumar Ganesan, CEO and co-founder, Exitel.
So let's start the proceedings. At first, I would invite Shiv Kumar Ganesan, CEO and co-founder of Exitel, for his welcome address. Shiv, over to you.
Thank you everyone for being here and for this opportunity. Such a great pleasure to be amongst all of you, to be talking about a topic that is so close to my heart. And I'm not just making it up when I say this. And to really understand what I mean, we have to go back just a short period of 11 years. So back then I was trying to start up and I was trying to find a communication solution for my company. And it was rather unique at that point in time. And I went around in the market trying to look for a solution and I did not find any. And we clobbered together a solution and that eventually transformed into Exitel. So I was Exitel's first customer myself. So I understand the problems of setting up communication technology for a company. But more importantly, I and over 200 other people wake up every day from the bed and turn up at work so that people like all of you can focus on your core business while we take care of the headache of communication tech. Today, I wanted to share with you guys two perspectives and three themes, quite simple. On the perspective side, I want to start thinking about communication, not from our perspective, but from the customer's perspective. And there are two voices I'd like to spread here. The first one is my wife's voice. And her request to me is protect first-party data. So one of the behaviors that I see from my wife is that whenever she is trying to call people or talk to people, she usually uses my cell phone to call them and to talk to them. And it's rather sad that she's being forced to do that because she does not want anybody else to see her phone number. I think this is an important perspective that we as an enterprise should be aware of. And the second perspective is the voice of my mother. So she was a happy customer of Axis Bank. And she used to go to the branch and talk to the branch manager in the pre-COVID so-called physical world. And unfortunately, in the last couple of years, that has been put on a full stop. And she craves for that rich in-person experience and the help that the branch manager used to give her in the remote world. And she misses it. And I think a lot of stuff that we all take for granted is extremely hard for my mother. She wants help in filling up forms. She wants help in sending documents, e-signing. And I think all of these things have become really difficult in the post-COVID world. I wanted to just share these two perspectives, both of the customer, and I wanted to just share with all of you guys. The second perspective is our own perspective, the enterprise's perspective. And there are three important points that I'd like to leave here. The first one, most of you must have experienced it, is fragmentation of customer data. Unfortunately, we all work in really large enterprises. All departments have their own CRMs, and information about the customer, insightful information about the customer is sitting in silos and pockets in all of these CRMs. And consequently, no one representative of the company ends up having all the insight and the information about the customer to be able to communicate intelligently with the customer. The solution to this problem is increasingly being touted as CDP, Customer Data Platform, and different people are approaching the CDP problem from different angles. The second one is compliance. Kind of goes hand in hand with data privacy wave that has been sweeping the world. So there are a bunch of compliances that are coming up, and our choices must enable that we are compliant to all of these rules that are currently existing, and also all the ones that we are anticipating that will come up in the future. And the last one is lead leakage. Maybe in the loan world, if I'm going to buy a 10 crore apartment, then I certainly don't want to be sharing my phone number with a bunch of people, because I'm worried that they might now sell my number to other people and make money off of it. So these are three very important perspectives that we as leaders must keep in mind when we set up our communication systems. And I'd like to now talk about the trend number one, or theme number one, which is how do we choose cloud? Internally at Exotel, we use this phrase called the cloud promise, and it goes like this. So when I went to the customer first, almost 10 years ago, my pitch was something like this. I told that customer, look, don't bother buying hardware and servers. Hackers will come and hack into the system. Municipality corporation will come and pull up the plug. There will be power outages. Your hard disk will crash. I think you guys understand what I'm talking about, right? And I said, look, let's put it all on the cloud and life is going to be glorious, right? So that was the original cloud promise. And so reliability is at the heart of every cloud product. And any cloud company that is true to its cloud perspective has to really think about reliability, or what we call as cloud promise. And that needs to be at the core of what they do. When we think of reliability or cloud promise, there are some aspects that we often talk about: security, availability, and scalability. I think these are three things that all of us usually talk about, right? But there are, in my opinion, 4 other dimensions that are not talked about as often, which is performance, how quickly the system works, how performant the system is; deliverability, ability to be able to reach your customers on time; quality, think of call quality, think of video quality; and accuracy, whether the caller ID of the phone is correct, whether the chat message has reached that person accurately. I think these are just 4 other parameters. And at Exotel, we actually measure our platform using all of these 7 parameters. And I wanted to just leave it with you guys that these are ways in which you can evaluate your cloud choices. The second theme or trend is the emergence of deskless jobs. So there are a bunch of trends that were lurking around the corner: remote working, work from home, distributed working, and so on and so forth. And I think some of these trends have been put on nitro boost due to COVID. And all of our employees have lost access to the desk that they used to work on. Increasingly, more and more deskless jobs are being created. And consequently, one begins to wonder what happens to the desk phone that people used to have, using which they used to talk to their customers. And in my opinion, that's actually getting digitized, just like everything else. And it's getting converted into a click on the screen, usually integrated into a CRM. So we are seeing a trend of desk phones getting converted into a click phone through CRM. Everybody talks about AI, and I wanted to also leave my 2 cents on AI. It'll be incomplete, my welcome address otherwise. So we're also seeing 3 other important requirements that are coming in from customers on AI. The first one is bots that chat and talk in real time, naturally into contact center support call, and the bot is able to vet it. But even on outbound calling, let's say your collection calls, why should a human be doing that? If we are able to have bots that are really intelligent, perhaps the bots can have extremely intelligent conversations with the customer about your collections call, about your premium notification calls, etc. The second one is assist, increasingly in sales assist and support assist, where bots are now either through pop-ups or through whisper into the ear if it's a call, tells the agent how better to sell, or how to talk to the customer, or what the customer is actually asking for. So this is another requirement that many of our customers are asking. And the last one is post-call processing or post-chat communication processing. Perhaps many of you may have outsourced your support and sales to BPOs. Perhaps oftentimes managers might be doing random sampling on these calls to measure the quality. It is now possible to run bots on all of these calls, on the call recordings, and to be able to extract emotions, experiences, keywords, and a whole bunch of other metrics that are all extremely useful. With that, I'd like to thank this opportunity, and I hope my two perspectives and three themes were helpful for all of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shivku, for that. You actually set the context for this conversation by talking about the requirements as well as the trends which are catering to the requirements and what we could do to benefit and better the bouquet that most of us have for the customers there. So with that, let's dive into the discussion. The question to you is that what has been your communication strategy? Relationships between insurance agents and customers are a key aspect of how insurance is sold in India, where you have a long-term relationship with a guy who you know very well and you trust him with your money. So but with remote selling, has this relationship between the sales agent and the customer been impacted, and how have you curated your customer communication strategy around it?
Thanks for having me on this panel. Very good question that you asked. The pandemic has really put a lot of things in different perspective. Coming and representing a life insurance company, I think this is one of the products which is the longest term product which is available in any financial bouquet. And communication becomes a very, very important aspect with the customer. Now, when I look at customer, I look at a distributor also as a customer of the company because he's an ambassador for the company. We look at employees also as one of the ambassadors, and obviously the end customer, which is for whom we all do business. In insurance, especially life insurance, we look at two categories of communication, or rather I categorize it as a structured communication which goes to a customer at regular intervals. Okay, like for example, when your policy is due for renewal, something like that. And there are unstructured kind of communications which also take place. So both of these are very, very important. And especially in this pandemic, the unstructured one was more important because suddenly you had to close down your offices, lockdowns, people could not move, regulators coming with a lot of things to be done for the customer, like they gave an extension of the premiums which were payable. So customers were not aware what to do, how to get in touch with the offices. Offices were not working. At the same time, the distributor, who is the link between the company and the customer, was also in the same kind of thing. And this is where I think the non-structured communication part of the company became very, very important. And this is something which we could very effectively manage through various means. Obviously, communication happens in various means, starting from, as Shivku rightly said, picking up a phone and talking. But even today, that's becoming a little difficult with the various things which the TRAI has brought in. So it could be a social media communication, it could be a direct communication based on what the customer has opted for, through which the company can communicate with them. So be it an email, be it telephone, be it a video call, or whatever you may call it. But yes, this pandemic has really put a lot of emphasis on the right kind of communication with the right kind of customer in the right mode or medium that I would like to put it up. And most of them was unstructured communication, which was there.
Right. Thanks, Anand. And I'll come with the same question to the other life insurance company on this panel, which is Suhail from Max. So Suhail, unstructured conversations, the thing between life insurance salespeople and customers is half the time, 90% of the conversations are just normal conversations. You just pick up the phone and say, I read about this, I read about this particular policy. I just saw this ad of this policy. Is it good? Does it work for me? What do you think? And it may not necessarily result in anything, but it's just a relationship building thing, right? But how do you do that in a pandemic kind of situation? What is your what has been your communication strategy for this period?
So Ayush, thank you first of all for having me on this panel. And I think, as Anand said, insurance is a business of trust, and you are putting something in a very, very long time. It's not a transaction business. So one of the key things of putting a trust was when there was physical interaction. And I think this pandemic broke the physical interaction. So the whole thing was about how can you create this trust without being in front of the customer. So obviously this has many manifests. For example, you realize a lot of the agents who are very good in offline selling were not great when they were able to sell online. It came out, how do you help them create a persona which is digital? So for example, we created a CRM for them. They were able to create their microsites on Facebook, on other places, LinkedIn, because that's how you are, they have a history. It's because you are not meeting and representing in individually. Second big thing was that how do even working very closely with the entire distribution team, you create a remote selling as a process. And you said there a step-by-step process. You will first contact the customer, you will send him some document, you will establish a meeting. In that first call, you will only talk about yourself. You will have an e-card which shows you about kind of business you do. So it was almost like creating a kind of a run book. How do you talk to a customer, various aspects of the sale, right from establishing your credibility to doing a need analysis, and then finally pitching a product, and then the whole onboarding solution. Now, most of us, and Anand will say here, is that have digitized our onboarding processes. It was the pre-sales part, that informal communication which had to be templatized. I think that was the most important part. The second important part was this: how do you help that guy? It was about, you had a screen, you have to now show a BI. So how you had your quote engines who were create and quote, you can send electronically a quote, you can use a co-browsing solution to share the quote with a person, give and get, which is very, very important in the selling process. And I think that informal communication, which was pre-onboarding, I think that's what was very important. We worked a lot on basically two areas: helping agents, offline agents, create an online presence and a digital presence. How can they do that? And number two, how can you templatize a remote way of working and create trust? And I think as we will get into hybrid, one of our aims is to learn from pandemic and say, can we perpetually move 20-25% of our business to remote selling even in future when the pandemic is out?
I'll come to Ratan with the same question about your communication strategy. Like the insurance sector, banking also has a significant chunk of customers, like Shivku was saying, his mom, who would like to meet representatives face-to-face, executives face-to-face, transact face-to-face. But you also have another chunk, especially the ones who evolved during this pandemic, who want one-click gratification. So how do you customize your communication strategy, and what is the bouquet that you offer?
Yeah, thanks, Sachitna, for having us here. And I think let me also begin by saying banking is a business of trust. No, so indeed. So I kept thinking that is COVID climate change or a passing rain, and we realized that some of the changes that we did are indeed for good, and we will continue that. So what we did is that as pandemic hit us, almost 50,000 of our sales executives were stuck at home. They have nothing to do. How to really get values out of them? So we converted their own mobile device and say, bring your own device. And we inbuilt CRM into their device. And we said, okay, why don't you just connect with the customer and say, hello, how are you? And that we did for a good 10 to 15 days and say, how are you? Just that building connect and say, how are you? And we realized that lots of customers were stuck in different cities, some bachelors and some customers were nobody to reach out to. Just that simple connect helped us to improve our customer experience in 2 weeks by 7 percentage points. That's phenomenal. It never happens. So that's one thing that we did. The second, of course, we have already been working on our mobile app. So you now have a handheld device through which you can connect a customer. You got CRM there. You can initiate a journey and complete the journey. And using video KYC, you can actually complete the whole selling process. Also take customer objection and the service request in the same mobile app and push it to the entire system. And we also did a lot of STP processing, almost 16 sort of services we launched during that period, which can be done STP, straight goes core system and gets done immediately. But I think I'll mention two more important points that we did during that period of time. One, we realized that banking will continue, and therefore we created almost 500 work from home call center executive with endpoint security, with recording solution, and all the good things that Shivku said, including speech analytics, which I'll talk about later on. We actually built all of that in just about a couple of weeks, starting from February. We were ready with 500, 1,000, 1,700 today. Call center executives are operating work from home with all of those facilities. So that was quite useful for me. The last point is that we created lots of these WhatsApp snippets around safe banking practices. And we realized that these marketing, small, simple campaigns actually travels very rapidly. And some of these are actually award-winning campaigns, which helped us reach out to the customer very rapidly because we realized banking safe practices will be very important during this period of time. So those are few of the nuances that we tried, and we will continue to use some of these as well.
Thank you very much, Ratan. Always very insightful and not very different today. Lots of good insights and good examples from you. It's really lovely to hear you. I will come to Prakash now from 5paisa.com. And later on offline, I'll ask you what is the secret behind your company's name. But as of now, let's take the question that I have for you here. For you, of course, digital transformation to reach the customer had begun much before the pandemic, right? But how much has COVID accelerated this process? How easy or how difficult has it been to service customers and communicate with them? People who all want to be always available and want instant solutions.
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me. So, Alok, as you rightly said, for us as a digital company, we even before pandemic, from the day one when we started, we neither had any offices or a physical presence across, nor we had, in broking parlance, we call as relationship managers or agents to actually talk to customers. Despite broking being a business where it's very time sensitive, and you trade and the time and each and every tick of a price is extremely important. So despite time being the most important factor, as a digital broker, we always never had any physical presence, and hence we had no choice but to work on how do I communicate with my customer virtually. So, but what changed during pandemic? So in any kind of communication, one is on a customer, second is our internal teams. So customer was always virtual. There was no physical one-to-one interaction. But on the other end, when you had people sitting in offices, they were together. But what changed in pandemic, that they also became virtual. So as an agent or as a customer support executive or as my team manager, I am not able to communicate or learn what is happening in the company and then communicate back to customers. So that was the challenge, that initially when suddenly everyone from offices went back to their homes, and a lot of people not just went back to their homes in the city, but in their hometowns. And that came with its challenges. So at that point of time, what I thought, and it's not something that we have achieved, but we want to achieve, is that traditionally we have always seen that a customer communication has to be a two-way communication, where a human at the end of your at an enterprise level talks to a customer who is also a human at the other end. Why can't you break that? Obviously, there are a lot of chatbots and AI and everything. But we thought that it is important that first of all to understand why a customer needs a communication. There are the typical use cases. The customer needs a communication when you are onboarding, doing your KYC. They need a communication after they are becoming your customer for any query, problem, or complaint. No customer will call up just to chat. So understand why customer is communicating, and can I address that at the root cause? Can I create something on my platform? Because my platform is my shop, my app is my shop. What if the moment you come to shop, the way you come to shop, people come to my app? So can we create some communication journey? Can we identify what customer has in his mind, and hence he might come to me for talking? I rather better solve it at that level. I'm sorry, Shiv Kumar, but this is anti coming to the call center. But the point is that why customer is coming to you? How can you address that? That is one question if we are trying to solve. I'm sure, and especially in India, I mean, all of us have a comfort of talking to someone, irrespective of your problem getting solved or not. But the moment you talk to someone, you get a comfort and you are less anxious. So that problem you're still not having solved. But as and when the young generation who do not like to physically interact or who do not like to be called, if they are the ones who are my target customers, how do I create a virtual environment on the platform to solve their query, to solve their problems? And as a last case, then they come to us to talk. So that is the problem that we're trying to solve, and hopefully someday we will try and achieve. But what has accelerated is the need to do that. Otherwise, manpower in this country is available in abundance, right? Thanks to call center solutions, nowadays it is becoming cheaper. So what actually triggered to look in that direction was pandemic.
Right. Shivku, you would want to respond to that?
No, I think we should totally keep the customer at heart. So whatever works for the customer is priority number one. So if that means that we have to come up with technology so that they never talk to us, then that's the right thing to do.
I'll come to Rohit with that. What do you think the customer wants?
Yeah, I think Prakash has kind of set the tone. What happened in the pandemic is what we all realize. The customer is always trying to talk to you. Okay. Let's say he wants to open a broking account. He comes onto Google. Now, how do you get your ad right up there? How do you catch him? How do you communicate with him when he's coming to search for something? So it is how intuitive you are that you're able to understand what the customer wants. Once he opens an account, what is the problem that you're trying to solve for him that day? He wants to know where to invest his money. How do you communicate to him? How do you send him? How do you understand his risk appetite? And how do you give him the right, the right stock to invest in, or the right tip for him to actually, satisfy his need? So what has happened in COVID is I understand that COVID is one of the worst things to have happened, and we have lost a lot of lives in India, but it has pushed the world into a different trajectory. It has opened up new challenges to us. It has allowed us to connect digitally to our clients. The clients were always ready. They were always enabled on their mobile phone. All those who had a platform on the mobile phone, you can see they did really well during the pandemic because they were able to communicate to the client. Even though, as Prakash rightly said, many of our staff were now working out of home, right? Not only were we able to communicate with the client effectively, but we were also able to now connect back with our families because we were working 9 in the morning to God knows what time in the night. Yeah. Today, my daughter can walk in anytime and speak to me. So I'm able to communicate with my family. And we should come up with more and more intelligent systems to reach more and more clients because we need to communicate with them. And there is good news for the call centers because there's always something going to fail somewhere. And that's your last line of defense, where they will have to call into somebody and, that one help which you keep putting into your learning and find out why they're calling, improving your systems and minimizing it. Because today, somebody wants to open his account at 7 o'clock in the night, 7 o'clock in the morning. They want to put in a trade at 12 o'clock in the night. You need to make sure your system is ready to communicate with them at that time and match their need. So COVID, I understand whatever bad it has brought to us, but the silver lining, it has thrown a very good opportunity for us to help our clients now get their needs. They don't need to walk into a branch. They now should have everything at their fingertips. COVID has shown us that it is possible. Many organizations resisted the work from anywhere, though it was happening in the Western world, but today they've been pushed into that position. Yes, the physical connect is lost. We need to come back to offices for some sort of collaboration meetings and find out some formulas of how we can now have a very good work-life balance. But communication has overall enhanced post-COVID because now we've been able to reach out to many more customers.
Right.
Thank you. In fact, Rohit, very good points. And, one of the things that I noticed in both your and Prakash's points is the human to human interaction. And the problem with that, at least I face and several others face with financial, organizations is that, and not to speak of the companies on the panel here, but in general, sometimes the IVRs keep going around in circles and circles, and you just can't reach there because you have a question that the IVR is not able to answer, or even the AI bot is not able to answer. And then it becomes very difficult to actually get a response to that, right? So we have an audience poll coming up on this issue itself. So it's a very relevant thing. Nidhi, can we please run the first poll? So the question that we have here is, it's not so much a question, an IVR and AI chatbots used for customer communication are, and there are 3 options: very useful and help companies connect with and guide customers in an efficient way. They are useful, but too impersonal, do not give customer the right feel-good experience. They are neither intuitive nor intelligent and will need far more time to be truly useful to customers. So let's see what the audience thinks. See the results?
Yes, we can.
Interesting, huh?
So 54% say that IVR and chatbots are useful, but also too impersonal.
And do not give. Any thoughts on that from the panel? Ratan?
Okay, if I would
Yeah, go ahead,
Sorry.
sorry, if I would take it, I think what we define is a human touch, with the technology. I think there is no one end of the coin. I think more and more you need to weave this both, because for example, the example which we took, typically a lot of us, and I'm sure are trying to invest on how to personalize the communication. You know what a customer wants. Not everybody wants to come to an IVR. A lot of people are more comfortable using WhatsApp. I think everybody will tell probably on this call that today the way WhatsApp is picking up, it is almost 50-60% of your entire traffic is coming onto your websites. Number two, when you talk typically about IVR conversation, I think a lot of investment and goes behind how can we have an intent prediction engine. The whole idea of creating a customer platform is to understand why is customer calling you, and I think that's very, very important. Therefore, can you change your IVR tree? Can you say, if you have just paid your premium, that the next question is that print a receipt, or if your transaction actually failed on your website and the customer calls you again, know he's calling you. I think that one big area I think we continue to focus on. Second thing is also about something we are experimenting now. It's called sentiment analysis. That if a customer is talking to a bot and he's getting frustrated, or second, he has not queried, or he has put the same query in, can an agent come and take a live chat and talk to him, or customer has the option to switch to a live chat at that point of time? I think that's the thing. The idea is how do you mix this together? It's not one side, but you bring human and technology together. Sorry,
Ratan, we'll take a quick point from you and then move to the next.
Sohail has explained extremely well. So let me tell you what used to happen before bot. So before bot is like press 1 for Hindi, press 2 for English. Then you say press 1 for savings account, press 2 for current account.
Still there in the feature phones.
Then you say debit cards. Then you say after reaching debit cards, multiple stuff. Then you say I want green pin for debit card. Now you come and you just say that I need green pin for my debit card. It can understand Hindi, English. So now you straight go to the node. So first of all, it has eliminated all that travel time, IVR traversing time. That's number one benefit. The second, I think I clearly agree with the audience that it is still too impersonal. But what Sohail said is that ability to really work on multiple solutions together. For example, if the bot is unable to answer, it should straight go to the right agent who can handle it. Number one. Number two, if the call gets disconnected, there has to be callback assist to immediately call up. Another day I saw a tweet on Axis Bank itself, and I was delighted to see that it says within 10 seconds I got a call back by the same agent. That's powerful. So if we can do all of this together, and then as Sipku mentioned, Sohail supported that whole speech analytics, that you are able to read the sentiment between the customer and the agent, and the customer is saying disgusted, disappointed, escalation, all of that. You quickly whisper and say, look, the call is not going right. If it is terrible, pass it on to an expert desk. So if we could do all of this together, only then it becomes a very powerful, meaningful solution. Just the bot doesn't really become a full-fledged solution, honestly. So audience is right. A lot of work to be done by the technology experts and to really make it more personal.
Ratan, I'll take the cue from your question and go to Shivku here. What you're saying would also require a huge amount of investment on infrastructure, right? Because it is a customer whom the pandemic has changed completely. When a customer now comes to you, the customer is actually comparing your app with perhaps an e-commerce app. So you're competing now not only with your sector, but you're competing with the entire app world. So Shivku, my question to you is that, in this changed world where the entire approach is customer centric, how difficult is the shift for the financial services sector from their old ways of conventional ways of servicing a customer to now a customer who wants one-click gratification, wants to go to the WhatsApp chat with you, but also wants personalization there?
No, it's a great question. So I think one of the things that I think really holds all of us back as large enterprises that have been around for decades together is inertia, or the need to maintain status quo, right? So, and I think no, everything was working fine. The processes are great. It has been thrashed out completely nicely. Everything is just going along smoothly, right? And it's just definitely a lot of work and effort to kind of now throw all of that into the dumps and then kind of now adopt something new. And like the poll also said, which is still evolving, I think we still have some ground to cover. I think that's the difficult challenge that all of us as enterprises are going through. And I think bots, for example, infrastructure, there is an on-premise setup that you already have. You've probably sunk a little bit of money. But fortunately, the newer models such as cloud enables pay as you go. You only pay for what you use. They take care of most of the upfront investment that needs to be done. So I think some of these newer technologies seem to come to help as the needs of the enterprise change. I think the technologies are also kind of evolving. So I think it's going to be a constant battle to fight against the inertia, the status quo, and ultimately, I think like what Prakash said, right, to embrace what the customer wants and kind of continue to keep the focus. And then if it makes sense for them, then that's the right thing to do.
Absolutely, Shuko. And in fact, we are talking here not just of strategy, but the next level, which is basically the infrastructure, right? That you need to deploy and implement your strategy effectively.
Yeah.
And so my question to the rest of the panel, basically,
to add one more point is, as you mentioned about infrastructure, right? I've been thinking about how established on-premise setups, unfortunately, have become hacks in the post-COVID world. You know what I mean, right? Things that were designed for a physical world, now suddenly the world has changed, and then people had to create so many of these hacks to get them to work, right? So it was just something that keeps coming in my mind.
Yeah, that is related to the inertia point that you also mentioned in the beginning, right? So the thing about infrastructure also is that it needs a fair degree of investment, and the investment has to be backed by a very strong infrastructure as well as channel strategy, right? So how is your channel strategy and your infrastructure strategy changing, given that there is now so many new channels for customer communication? At the same time, how do you ensure that you don't overdo the communication part and people get irritated with you and just start blocking all your numbers, right? And you just then can't get through to the customer. So this is an open question to the panel. Anand, you want to take it first?
Yeah, I think it's a very good question, because even if you consider yourself as a customer, beyond a point, you really get irritated if you keep on getting calls on the same subject. Take the case of life insurance, which we represent. You have already paid the premium, but the call center doesn't know that you've paid the premium. The communication has not gone to the call center. The call center keeps on calling you saying your premium is due on this date, and then you get irritated beyond the point. Something is required on the proposal stage, and you keep on calling up the customer. Then you also, in the current scenario, as the call centers are not operating from their locations, their executives are also working from home. There are different timings at which the customer. So there is a need, and which I think large organizations have already met that need of how to communicate with the customer. What is the preferred mode of communication that the customer prefers? In fact, we have gone to the extent of even using our CRM system to indicate what time the customer should be contacted. Like, for example, we have seen some customers prefer to be contacted after 7:30 in the evening. Some people don't prefer to be contacted during their office timing. So it's a strict no by them to do it. Now, there are different ways of looking at it. For example, if it's a phone call or if it is a call center call that needs to be done, whether this can be inputted in the CRM next, and the CRM system can access be given to the call center so that they know what time they should call. And as rightly mentioned by a few of my co-panelists, we also do a sentimental analysis and put that. So if a guy is an irritated guy and he gets too agitated in the last call, that gets recorded in the CRM system. So next time when he calls up, the call center executive exactly knows what was the issue, what happened at that point of time. This guy is a personal guy where I have to need to give special emphasis on to take care of things. So these are all inbuilt into the system and the way of communication. So one is, how do you communicate with the customer? Do we use what channel, whether it's a WhatsApp, whether it's a mail, whether it is a letter? Letter is quite less in today's world. And whether it's a phone call. We have also gone to the extent of putting certain structured communications on humanoids. So, but is that effective? how do you maintain a central repository of what communication has gone to what customer at what point of time? So repetition of the communication does not take place, which probably irritates the customer. So all of this is back-end stored in the CRM system that we have, so that any channel who wants to communicate with the customer, be it operations, be it sales, be it marketing, when they look at this customer, they exactly know when was this customer last contacted, what was the medium of communication that was used. In case if some communication has gone to the customer in form of mail or a Bitly link or SMS, what was that particular thing and what was the reward that was received. So the next level of communication becomes much more focused. You get the right kind of result that you want out of that communication. I think that is very important. For example, you were asking on the IVRS. IVRS will obviously be a you can't compare that with somebody who is going to talk to you, because talking to you will always have a human effect. It'll have some kind of an emotional backing to it, which obviously IVRS will not have. Like, for example, take the case of life insurance. Life insurance for last so many years in the country had been face-to-face selling. You knew that an agent would talk to you, come to you, sit across with you, even at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night when you're with your family, and probably do the transaction for you and advise you what is to be done. From that scenario, moving to a scenario which is completely non-face-to-face selling. Mm-hmm. How do you manage the entire communication piece from the company to the distributor, from the distributor to the final consumer? And once it is sold, how do you ensure that you get back the right kind of feedback? And that's where the current system of having various applications that companies come out with makes a lot of sense, provided all of this at the back end is integrated in the right manner, so that at one place, all the fractions of that company, whether it is operations, sales, marketing, whichever department wants to know what is the communication or the method of communication or the thing of communication that has happened, is available at one location that is. And that, I think, is the crux of the whole thing. Otherwise, repetitive, yes, as you said, even we get bored when the same bank keeps on calling you saying that he wants to give you a loan when you told them that I don't want a
loan. Right, absolutely. Whoever wants to come in, chip in, please feel free. I'll take the question to Rohit and to Prakash. Prakash, first, your customers really have been more savvy than, say, insurance customer or a bank customer more in general. So when you choose a channel of communication now, and so what are these channels that you're choosing, keeping the future in mind?
So, Sujata, before I answer, I just want to take a minute to discuss the poll where people said that, because we are talking about communication and AI and chatbots are the in thing, or everyone's saying future of communication is that humanless communication with chatbot. See, the biggest problem that I see, and why 54% people are saying that it is impersonal. The reason that whenever we are talking about communication, be it IVR, be it chatbot, all these are born not because of the need to provide a better quality experience to a customer, but most of these are born to reduce the cost of the organization at the other end. So basically the objective of these communications are very different, and hence you still see people responding where the chatbot is impersonal, not able to answer the question. IVRs are too long, too many options, not able to go. The reason is the source, that why this entire channel was created. If you actually, and the funny part is that at an enterprise level, we want to put this so that the cost gets reduced. And the moment we become a customer for any service provider, we hate this. So there is no alignment of customer objective and company objective. The communication should be where alignment is same. And hence I come back to what we want to do or we try to do. And obviously, and that's on the customer side. And the second is sales, because you have sales targets, and the easiest way to achieve the targets is just pick up a call, and talk to customers, say that, please, sir, buy this. Why? Because I have a target. So, I mean, and absolutely no offense, because I have done this entire life. We still do to a certain extent. But if we want to correct this, what is most important is that if you are, irrespective, whether you are a digital company or you are an offline company, you're a bank, you're an NBFC, you're an insurance company, today everyone has smartphones. Everyone logs into Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp. So people understand, irrespective of their literacy, people understand how to see a mobile phone and how to use an app. So irrespective of who you are, try to understand each and every requirement of customer, right from sales, buying a product, to servicing a product, to solving a query. Try to give him what he wants on that. And listen to the customer communications that he does today on your customer support. What is he talking? Try to answer that, and post facto, try to answer that on your mobile app, on your website. Create an FAQ, which is really an FAQ, which is a frequently asked question. There are so many big organizations. You go on their site and see an FAQ, and you would see it is not a frequently asked question. It is a rarely asked question. Change that. Once you start changing that, that is where your customers will appreciate. They will like. Classic examples, and obviously I don't want to name few, but classic examples. Amazon. How many times do you go to call center of Amazon? Rarely. How many times you go call center of Ola or Uber? In India, you still go, but to a very, very less extent. Why? Because the heart at which that these people build platforms and with respect to customer communication is with only one objective: solve the problem. Once we all do that, it doesn't cost you much. First of all, it doesn't cost you much in terms of infrastructure. Trust me on that. It just costs you some time, some understanding of customer need, and solving it. So
Okay.
At my end, I'm trying to do the same and trying to achieve at some point.
Thank you very much. Very good points. And both Shivku and Ratan Kesh have raised hands, but I will come to Rohit first because I need his view on this issue before I come to, after Rohit, we'll come to Shivku and then Ratan Kesh.
I kind of agree with Prakash. All these channels have been basically made for the company. Also, one thing that Suchetna said is that our customers are savvy, and maybe a banking customer is not savvy is not true. You can see all the panelists have talked about digital. So every customer is savvy because sorry. Yeah.
You're on mute, Rohit.
Yeah. So every customer is savvy today, and they are comparing you to Amazons and the Ubers of the world. Very good example set by Prakash. For example, I remember with one of these taxi solutions, one of the biggest complaints was that you were charged the cancellation fee wrong. So when you went to the complaint section, I've been wrongly charged. My cancellation fee was the first button. You press it, your cancellation fee is waived. And I'm sure they were actually tracking to how many people were actually clicking that button wrongly, and their AI ML was ranking you. So you yourself had a ranking on the Uber app, right? You could see what is your ranking. You could see the driver's ranking also. So all these platforms I don't think they are violating my privacy, but they are categorizing me as a good user, a valid user. They are trying to understand what my problem is, because they don't want you to call. Because the moment you're calling, it means some process has failed somewhere. So we need to start thinking like this digitally, because everybody wants to have that service on their mobile phone, on their computer. And the next generation is they are not even the touch. No, so my daughter walks over to Alexa and says, plays this song. So she might go to Alexa and say, tell me my portfolio for today. Give me the stock of the day, right? So we have to start evolving now and start understanding our client needs, so that we communicate with them in whatever channels they use. They may not go to Twitter. The next generation may be on Alexa. They may be on Siri. They will ask Siri, so is your application ready to answer back? Yes, your portfolio is down by 10%, so give you an alert. How do you actually send a CrowdStrike notification to the client, whether as I think one of the co-panelists said, what time does he want to be contacted?
Yeah, Anand was saying.
You know, what time does he look at his phone? What time does he log on to Facebook? We know all that, right? So where do you want to communicate? Which channel? You know it. So you have to do it effectively without making him feel that you violated his privacy. I mean, when you walk into a shop, if the salesman anticipates your needs, you love the salesman, right? It's a wow effect. You want to give them the wow effect. That's what you want to do.
Right, Rohit. I think there's no good time to tell a customer that his portfolio is down 10%.
Before
There is no
Suchetna,
good time for
before
that.
you move on, Suchetna, I just want to say, Rohit, if there's a 10% fall in my portfolio, I want Alexa to give me, the fire alarm. Not just
I should have said 10% increase. Sorry, I used the wrong word.
Yes, 10% fall. Nobody wants to know. We'll come to Ratan and Shivku. Ratan, you want to go first? You had raised your hand.
Yeah, so I think all extremely powerful points made. Quick one for me in banking, I got broadly 4 kinds of communication. One is transaction messages that I send, that's regulatory. Second is status update on various things that the customer would do, request for an address change, nomination, card upgrade, delivery, all that is the second one. Third is regulatory communication that I need to do before, let's say, a customer account become dormant, unused, locker not operated, etc. Fourth is the marketing communication. Now, what is important is that I think Anand alluded to the point, ability to have one integrated communication hub, and everything that goes to the customer has to get routed through that. That will give me few important capabilities. Number one, it tells me how often am I reaching out to the customer, in what mode the customer is preferring to reach out to me. Sometimes we realize that for a customer to avail a credit card in a span of 10 days, we would have sent 10 communication, not necessary. So you rationalize the number of communication because customer don't need that. And then finally, the language, it has to be really carry your brand ethos. How long is the communication? One SMS split into 3, you actually have pending 3 times as well. And it is customer is inconvenience. So all of these will be powering through a very strong communication hub, which then becomes the fundamental point wherein both in and out, a customer reaching out, you know what exactly got communicated, and you can handle all of this. To me, that Chubb, which is what we are creating, is a very powerful place, but it's easier said than done. It's going to take a lot of time for a legacy bank like ours. We are in that path to really create it.
Shivku?
Well, I actually raised my hand for something completely different, but I'd actually now like to extend Ratan's viewpoint. I think that, and also kind of point at the poll results. I think they are kind of linked if you guys think about it, right? So the reasons why bots are stupid is because they just don't know everything that they need to know about a customer, right? So, one needs to, so let's say you are trying to send an OTP and let's say the OTP hasn't arrived. Let's say the customer now calls into the contact center. Can we now have the bot intercept and say, hey, I know that you've not received the OTP. Here's your voice OTP number, right? So that's the kind of experience I think customers are looking for. And the reason we are unable to provide that is because we have all these data silos. CRMs that were supposed to solve problems perhaps are creating more, isn't it? So I think maybe a neutral party, and this is where the CDP thing that I just spoke about comes in, right? Customer data platform. So ability to now sync all of this data into one massive customer data warehouse, and the ability to now maybe offer this data back to both the employees, people who are communicating with the customers, as well as to the bots, so that they can now get trained better with this data. And I think it's that holistic nature of availability of data that ultimately determines how good the bot is.
Yes, I was coming to Suhail. Yes, of course. You're on mute though.
I think just what Shivku and what Ratan said, I think that's what we are doing. Essentially there are 3 components to look at it. One is the traditional CRM component, which probably has most of your transactions, but did not have a lot of interactions. And secondly, you building a common customer communication engine, so that as I said, let all the communication go routed through that. Typically when you look at a bank or insurance company, there are those front-end assets which are all digital, which speak to the customer. And then there are back-end assets, which are your core systems, made on those languages, which probably nobody would use today, right? And then what happens is typically you get messages, transaction messages, you get processing messages. A lot of time there is duplication. So what we are doing currently, we have been implementing a common customer communication engine, and you have your CRM, and they both link to a common data platform on the cloud. And the idea is that this common data platform is elastic enough, one, both for your data reporting needs, also feeding it back to your transaction systems for personalization or embedded analytics, what you would like to do. So, that's I think so is there something which we are trying to build. And with the whole idea of we not only capturing our outbound communication, but this communication engines also understanding, like for example, if you send an SMS, you got to read receipt or not. If you send a WhatsApp message, did they get another message back? So establish a trail. So I think, and that's what Anand said. You don't need somebody to tell you what is his preference. Based on how he's responding, whether he's looking at it, you would understand your customer better, and how you feed this information. This information available more as and obviously the way we build this customer data platform, although that's technical, it's on a layer which easily can be consumed by your bots and your AI models, and feeding it back to your solutions. And even whether it's your call center, and therefore commonality of engine and building common data customer data platform is the most important thing today for, I think, most of us.
Right.
Absolutely.
Anand,
Anand,
you raised your hand. Yeah, you want to come in? You're on mute.
The only reason I raised my hand is I just wanted to share one very interesting analysis which we did. All of us keep on sending various kinds of communication. We wanted to check how many of these communications are actually read by the customers. Even sometimes we get SMSs, we just delete it off. WhatsApp aata hai. That certain things, this insurance company will either be selling or asking for some premium something, so you just knock it off. So as Sohail was mentioning, you have all the trail available on the back end because we, as I said, through the repository, we get into the CRM, so we know exactly which thing has gone, whether he has opened it, whether he has seen it. And then what we did is that we used analytics to find out how we can change this communication bit for people who do not read these messages, and came out with interactive communication. And then we found that the guy who was not opening up our mails probably at one point of time suddenly started looking at our mails and started interactive conversations through that particular communication that we sent. And then how do you then use this interactive communication? You could probably use it for upsell, you could use it for cross-sell, you could use it for certain services that probably you would like to give or tell the customer which is there. So what has happened is a good customer probably who's having, obviously when he's got money, everybody runs after him from the BFSI sector, so, but he's landed up with so much of communication and he doesn't really, I doubt some of them might not even be reading their mails on a daily basis in the personal mailbox, other than the official mail which is allowed. Certain companies don't allow the mails to come into their official mail. So for example, in our company, we don't allow the credit card statements and all that stuff with attachments to be landed on the official mail. So you have to necessarily communicate on the personal mail part of it, which is there. So what is it that is going to attract the final customer to read that communication, what you are attempting to communicate with that particular customer? I think that is also very, very important. Timing, things and all is all good. And then because different segments of customers will like to have different kinds of communication. For example, when we wanted to completely relook at our website, we looked at it, and because SBI, we cater to State Bank of India customers and also retail customers all over India. We were told that, we would like to have a website which is interactive and it should be talking various languages in India because we have got so many languages there. But unfortunately, in the IT world, we have only program which can convert it into 9 Indian languages. But we were the first one to put a website which gets converted into 9 Indian languages at a click of a button. And today, if you look at it, we have a chatbot which uses the same 9 languages. We have all these. So whatever then you develop on this website automatically gets into that mode of converting into 9 Indian languages through which you can communicate to the customer. So I think these two things are very, very important. Okay, sending messages, sending information, trying to communicate is fine, but is it reaching the customer in the right manner? Is he reading that communication? Is he responding back? And if he is not responding back, how do I change my communication mode or my communication system itself to make that thing attractive for the customer to read it? And that I think is one important aspect of communication. Otherwise, your communication is just nothing else but a piece of paper which lands into a dustbin in case if I send you a letter which you're not interested to open.
In fact, and in our effort to get the customer to read, what we are sending and to take us more seriously, we tend to get into try and understand from their gestures, like Suhail was saying and others saying, we try and understand what the knowledge is, what the intention is behind the customer's response, rather than waiting for them to tell us what is it. And so
Rohit was mentioning about savvy customers or people who have for example, SBI Life, almost 47% of my business comes from rural and semi-urban areas. Where we say that smartphones have penetrated, but there is still a segment of population which don't use smartphones.
Correct.
So how do you communicate with that part of it? Okay, I have an application which is a full application right from the time the customer walks into my office till the maturity or the death claim is paid. But if that is not downloadable in the mobile set of that particular person, that application is of no use. Then how do I communicate with that customer? How do I reach out to that customer in the format which he would like to have and in the language which he would understand? I think these two are very, very important things, because in banking, financial services and insurance, jargons is something which is used extensively. And at least now we have seen that coming down to a large extent and people trying to communicate in layman's language. But that again is a thing of how easily you can communicate, which the people can understand in the right manner of what you're trying to communicate to them.
Okay. Shivku, you've raised your hand. We'll go to the second poll after you finish.
No, I was just wanted to congratulate Anand. I'm just really happy to know that life insurance is reaching people to whom even mobile phones haven't reached. I think it's really nice to know that.
Yeah, indeed. And like I was saying, when we try and get through to customers, we also try and get into hyper personalization in a way, right? And hyper personalization is supposed to be the next big thing in financial services industry. So our next, and that also raises concerns on data privacy and security and stuff, right? So let's take this next poll, because we have an audience of experts in the financial sector here. And our next question is, hyper personalization solutions are the panacea for customer acquisition and retention challenges. And the options for the audience, everybody please vote. Panelists cannot vote, only you can vote in the audience. So yes, these solutions help finance companies do more specific customer targeting with personalized products and service offerings. Second one is, yes, they are useful, but still in early stages of maturity. They need to be made sharper. Third option is, they should not be used given the ethical and legal limitations and gray areas in the use of personal data. And the last option is, segmentation still has greater value than hyper-personalization, despite the challenges of changing consumer behaviors. You can see the results.
So 44% say that they are useful, but still in early stages of maturity, followed by 23% who believe that they are the solutions to help finance companies do more specific customer targeting. 19% believe segmentation still has greater value, and 15% believe that they should not be used given the ethical and legal limitations and the gray areas of personal data.
But that is still on the lower side. I think it's more in the maturity kind of stage. So my question based on this poll, and of course, before I come to you on this poll, we have a question from the audience, which is slightly different. And we have with us Swati. Swati, are you live with us?
Hello, yes, I am.
You want to ask your question to the panel, please?
Yes, first of all, thank you so much for this insightful discussion. It has been a pleasure to listen to all the panelists. My question was that, as Prakash sir also mentioned, that at this point of time, people like the young generation do not want them to be called, and in this era there is digital self-service portals which are coming into picture. Now, I would like to know the opinion of panelists that how long does it see the way? Like, do we see digital self-service today, or it is still a futuristic option?
All right, thank you.
Swati, for your question. Who would like to go first with that? Prakash, you would? You're on mute.
I missed the question. Is the question is that the digital self-service body should be open now?
Yeah. The question is, digital self-service portals, have they arrived, or do you think it's an option for the future where it needs more maturity?
No, I think to a certain extent in some industries they have definitely arrived. Wherever it's a single product and more tech-driven companies, they are the ones where entire digital sales model is prevalent. Wherever, especially on the consumer side, wherever the journeys on the platforms are well defined. See, basically, what is digital self-service? It is that if I am coming to buy a product, if I am coming to solve a problem, if I'm coming to get a service, I am able to navigate through the entire journey seamlessly without having any doubts. Because the moment the need for talking to someone arises, if I have a question mark, or I am stuck, or I don't agree. So if the platforms are able to solve those question marks, then and there itself, the journey becomes seamless and digital. So for example, today you can book an app, you can book a cab, you can maybe order food or purchase things. Why? Because most of the things, if I am purchasing something on a shopping site, they understand and they know, and they've spent a lot of money on technology and consumer insight to know that what a customer who's coming for this product wants to know. And if I give that information upfront, then the journey is seamless. If I do not give, there are two chances. One, if there is a call button, he will press the button and I need to again input a cost because there has to be a person sitting on the other side to answer. Or I would look out to something else. If I am able to do it, I think my journey, I'm sure my journey will be digital. So in online shopping, food, app, and there are few industries where this is absolutely well defined. Whether
what about the BFSI sector?
In BFSI sector, it is not to that extent.
Yeah.
Still in the industry that I operate in, which is broking and mutual fund, to a large extent, we have achieved that. But I think banking and insurance is a bit of, or rather banking is a bit more complex. So that's something I feel that it is some time.
Before I go to the banker, the insurer has raised his hand. Yes, Anand, you want to take that?
Yeah, I think in the insurance field, at least in the life insurance, I can definitely say that I can't say it has arrived. I can say it has just landed.
Right.
Okay, what I mean by arrived and landed is companies have started. For example, we have started a customer self-service portal, which was started way back in about 2016, 2017. Now we have converted that into a customer self-service app. So on a mobile, because it's a PWA based, it becomes very easy for the customer to use any device to work on it. And be it all non-financial transactions, which otherwise he or she would have had to go to the office or reach the branch or reach the distributor. The person can sit at home and easily do the things which is required. Change of address, change of nomination, mode, all these kind of things, including switching of ULIP things, or maybe redirection of my premium when I pay from my earlier allocation to the new allocations. All of this is available. This have been enabled. There are enough security measures that have been put in place to ensure that these are not misused or being used by people who should not be using it. Yes, as Prakash rightly mentioned, I agree that end to end might not have been achieved, but that's the reason I said it has just landed. We have still to be said that we have arrived there. But every organization, I think, is looking at reaching out digitally because the pandemic has forced organizations to look at it, whether you like it or you don't like it. I think the only population in the corporate world who is somewhat happy with the work that he's doing is the CIO of every organization. Earlier, he had to justify the cost for enhancement of his infrastructure and digital things and all. Today, you just name it and that gets approved. No questions asked.
Suhail has also raised his hand, yes.
Yes, because that's a fact. And you have to move because, see, some people ask us, is this the new normal? I say, this is not the new normal. This is just the normal that we are seeing today. We don't know what we will see in 2022. Normal could be completely different. So
Right.
you have to move as the environment and the situation changes, and the faster you start adapting your methods, whether it is communication method, whether it is your servicing methods, and in whatever method you would like to use it, whichever channel you would like to use it, you have to have that agility to move at the fastest possible.
Absolutely.
Take, for example, work from home. How many companies could move from work from home in the shortest possible time? And in the same kind of uninterrupted kind of structure which you had.
Mm.
For example, in insurance companies, we have a treasury department which way we need to give Bloomberg screens to the dealers and have their deals recorded and all that. If I had to move the entire structure overnight to a work from home, did we have the capability to do that? Because that's also a way of communicating.
Right. So as you speak about agility, I'll go to Suhail. Yes, Suhail, you've raised your hand.
No, so I think similar lines what Anand said. There are two parts in a typical insurance company. One is customers coming to you as part of the new onboarding process, as a buying process, and I think there we see, and there is a movement. There obviously there are certain categories like term products, which are very which are more for evolved people, where you see more online buying, right? And I must say that still the journey is not 100% online, because it's a high involvement product. At some point of time, there is a call center. You get somebody to talk to you to help you take the right decision. But where we're seeing a big thing is also on the servicing front. And on servicing front, this is a new generation we talked about. They're impatient. They want instant gratification. So it is not so much about coming online. It is about getting their transaction fulfilled. It's the instant gratification we're looking at. And hence, for companies like ours, typical insurance companies, which on a back end run with some of a very old technology, it's very important that you have what Ratan said, straight through processing. And I think that is something most of us want to bring that number to a 70-80%. Beyond certain things where you would like to talk to a customer, because especially if it is separation or something, beyond that, you would get more and more to a straight through processing. And that's the key. You want an Amazon kind of an experience where actually there is no layout. You remember you have all those all those links, I just want a refund. You actually go and how can you get him faster? And I think this is even reflecting in the way the customer communicate to us. Not a lot of customers don't, they only want to come in you would be surprised how many customers will look at their policies in the night, because that's the only time they have, or when they would be, browsing on their laptops and they want to look at the fund value or something. So the self-service is here to stay. It's only thing that it's instant gratification, not just knowledge.
Right.
Thanks a lot. In fact, we are just about, we are running out of time. So we'll just quickly take a few more questions that we had, and I'll come to Rohit with the question on data privacy and cybersecurity, which are also very core issues for financial services companies today, right? Perhaps you could tell us a little bit about what you're doing in this regard, especially given that, a lot of customer data you have to share with some of your partners for delivering certain services, right? So how do you handle it?
Yeah, so data privacy and security are always going to be there. I mean, you can't run away from that. You got to be able to reach your client as fast as possible, and at the same time, there's no excuse for any breach on the data security front. So that's a given. And in terms of how you need to share data today, technology allows you to do that, right? You can click a button and you can call a person. You don't need to provide the phone number. Right? You can give your authorized partner a screen and say, if you want to call your X person, click the button and get connected. You can mask the number, like the client knows you're getting a call from the company like Sher Khan, and the users connecting, the partners connecting with the client, but at the same time, he doesn't get the number, right? He can send emails to them, he can send WhatsApp messages to them, but he doesn't need to get the number and the exact mobile. Because when the client wants to connect with him, you can have the communication coming in through your CRM and the partner replying back. So today technology allows you and gives you that benefit where you can actually mask the data, and at the same time, no one has the excuse of not reaching out to your client. You can reach out to your client very easily.
Right. Yeah. I have the same question. I'll go to Ratan with that. Ratan, same question: data privacy, and cyber security. How do you ensure that when you know that you have to also share it with some of your partners for better delivery of services?
So let me give three perspectives, and I like the way Sipu said. So I like the three perspectives. So point number one,
we'll come to Sipu right after you.
Yeah. So point number one is clearly in the work from home environment, you are bound to share a lot of information like the employees. On the floor, actually, you have got CCTV camera, whose pen paper is not allowed in a call center environment, etc. How do you really do that in work from home scenario? So we do have screen recording capabilities. We do have a lot of this masking. So, you can almost like snooping your employees, what they are doing, to be able to identify what they are doing, to be able to protect and prevent your data. That's one. The second, I think, let me elaborate what Rohit said, and we have used that as an app. So if I am an RM and I've got 200 customers in my portfolio, customers get one number for life. The RM may keep on changing. That's number one. And the RM is not allowed to store the customer's number. It's just an app. It displays that Rohit is my customer. I just click and call. If the customer calls and the RM I have not picked up the call, it gets to my branch manager. If not, then it goes to the call center. So that's the capability you created. Nowhere you are actually sharing the data. Customer only knows one 6-digit number. That's for life. The RM may keep on changing. At the back end, we will just map those many customers to the data. And the third perspective, which is, I think we haven't discussed, the poll, which is that whole hyper personalization as a subject. I think the good news is that 67% people said it's either good or it's still maturing. I think that's a reality. My belief is what I think Prakash mentioned. We need to have an ability to understand the customer and offer, but not overdo it. So for example, if Alok is I think he likes Chinese food and he is somewhere in Phoenix Mall and he is carrying my credit card. If I'm able to tell him that I found him during lunchtime, he's scouting for where to go for lunch, and actually give him a pop-up and say, we have a 15% discount in this Chinese restaurant in Phoenix Mall, he would love it. So that's hyper-personalization, yet it's not snooping. So I think that capability is something very, very powerful. So it's not overdoing, but yet I think I'm sure Alok will like it.
Yeah. No, I love Chinese food. I would love to get that alert.
Shivku with the same question.
So Shivku, basically from your perspective, if you can also tell us, how this can be done better. And also the fact that to enable these provisions, companies also have to invest significantly, right, in their technology spend for the demands of the new customer and the new growth models. Tell us a little bit about both aspects.
Sure. No, I think I second the number masking aspect of things. I think the data of several CRMs and certainly many databases also allow for data obfuscation, which is that your IT people, when they query your database, they'll not actually be able to get the phone numbers, although the application will still be able to get it. I also feel that data privacy, although it costs a little bit of money, and I will talk about how that's also reducing, it's actually good even for the enterprise. Because you don't want a rogue player to kind of walk away with all of the data, and ultimately it's not good for the brand. So it's not just a problem of the customer, it's actually a problem of the enterprise as well. In terms of managing all of this, we've been thinking about this notion of app to app, and I'm speaking a lot about calling because that's the context in which I'm coming from. But let's say something like app to app calling, right? So I think most of us have mobile apps, and most of the employees now have a app. The customers also already have an app. It is now possible to embed an SDK into both of these apps, and it is now possible to enable a conversation between these two people without ever actually having to talk about a phone number at all. So it's really just two endpoints, and even these endpoints are completely invisible to both the parties, but they get to talk to each other. So that's just one part. And the second part is also that costs of communications tend towards zero over time. So, gone are the times when we used to pay on a per minute basis and whatnot, right? So if it is about communication, I think that costs going forward, if it's already quite cheap, and I think it's only going to become cheaper going forward. So I think there is probably all the good reasons for us to go ahead and adopt some of these newer technologies, because it won't cost that much in the future.
Right. I'll take the same question to the others in the panel, whoever wants to go first. We're talking about the need to increase your spend in technology to ensure that you have the latest technology to capture the demands of the new customer, and also discover new growth models somewhere there.
Hey, Suchita, Anand here. Whatever Ratan and Shivku have said, I'll just add to it. With the digital thing, pandemic coming and companies going digital, the investment on InfoSec security has gone up tremendously.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now Ratan is from the bank. We are from the insurance company. He also does bank assurance for the company, which he is a corporate agent. Now, RBI wants two entities coming together and integrating either through API integration or whatever method you look at it. RBI will have their own systems to be followed by the bank, and IRDA, who's our regulator, will want to have their own things to be followed as far as InfoSec security is concerned. Okay, now even when our distributors are today using applications for sourcing, are they allowed to store the data of the customer on the application? No, they are not allowed. It automatically gets wiped out. Now take the case of whatever you may put. You may put a DLP in place, you may put a MDM in place to ensure that your data is not lost, data is not taken away. You ensure that the emails cannot go with the data which is allowed and all that. Can you stop somebody taking a photo? Just now when we're talking, I just take a camera here and I click. I'm a call center agent, or I am a particular person who has got access to some data, but I know that I cannot email this data. I cannot do anything on that. Can I take a photograph of this screen and take the data? Yes, you can. But fortunately today you have applications. The moment I bring my camera in front of the camera of the laptop or the desktop, the entire screen goes blank. Now that is what is the level of investments organizations have been doing. We have done it. So that's the reason I can give you this example of how you can do it. So that's one part of it. If you look at the regulatory part, now GDPR is one of the already established regulations in the UK. GDPR one, which is we are also likely to have a similar kind of regulation in India. Okay, and whatever draft we have seen is going to be a little tougher than that. So for all that, what we are discussing about whether I can communicate on a WhatsApp, yes, today you can communicate only after you take a exclusive opt-in agreement with the customer, which has to be recorded. But the draft legislator says that you also need to give him an opt-out option. And if he opts out, you are in no way going to communicate with that customer in that particular format. And if you do, then there are huge penalties which the company has to pay. Now, are the organizations prepared for this kind of thing to happen? Tomorrow, if somebody says that, say, for example, you just take a simple case. All of us are registered for do not disturb in the mobile, but still we are being disturbed by sales guys. TRAI says you can do call center training only, calling only through 1,400, but we still get calls from individual cells to do it. Yeah. Today it is not so important, or maybe important is not the right word, but today it is not taken as a offense. But tomorrow when the data privacy legislation comes in place, and if this is what exactly what is going to happen, the way it has been mentioned in the draft legislature, there will be huge penalties for an organization who will be breaching this. Are we prepared for it? That's the bigger question, I think, which enterprises should be asking themselves.
Are we prepared for it? Who wants to answer this question?
We are preparing for it, and that's the reason what we have done is we have looked at the draft legislature part of it, and whatever communication systems or channels of communication we are working out with, we are trying to see that you comply with that. For example, when we started WhatsApp, we have started registering the opt-in and also giving the customer an opt-out. And if that happens, then how does it automatically get into my system, get into my CRM, and how does my CRM then ensure that it restricts me to communicate with that particular customer through that particular medium? So that's very important.
I'll take the question
too. Quick 20 seconds answer. Are we prepared?
Yeah, though we have not gone to that level of perfection, but yes, the baby steps have already started in that particular.
Sure, Ratan, you want to say something?
No, I would say it's baby steps, because I've got two examples. You got CoWIN app, it collapses, not able to take, and you've got DLT blockchain, and day one it goes live and then it has to roll back. So it's a long way to go. I think we have no choice but to prepare ourselves, but we are still not prepared enough. We are working to get towards being prepared. That's a short answer.
Thank you so much. I'll go to Suhail, Rohit, and Prakash with the question that I had started asking, which is the need to increase your spend on technology to properly track the demands of the new customer as well as discover new growth areas. Whoever wants to go first between Rohit, Prakash, and Suhail. Suhail, yes.
So, I think as Anand said, the investments definitely are on, and I think nobody is doubting today that there is a shift in the customer. So I think that debate has already been done. No, there's no debate. I think every organization now, where are the investments? Obviously, investments around customers. Investments around creating platforms. One big thing we talk about is creating a customer data platform. Investments about creating communication engine. Investments about hyper personalization. Exactly the things we talked on these areas today are all the areas of investments. And I think we also see a big investment coming in is overall understanding your customer better. How do you understand your customer better? How do you bring in analytics about your customer into and then create a persona for him? Because in insurance, we say a frictionless journey. How can we take 80% of our policies where we don't ask any document or don't ask you to fill anything about your financial information? So I think that's where most of the investment will happen. Investments are on, and I think that's the business model we all have today signed on to.
Okay, Prakash.
See, I totally agree with Suhail and Anand that definitely investments into technology now is not something which you need to be convincing the board or the other management. It is given. But what happens is that when the excess of everything is bad, obviously technology is needed and investment is needed. But a lot of times it is also important for CXOs and especially CIOs to decide that what is the investment which is required to solve a problem, whether an investment of 5 crore or 5 lakh or 50 crore for a particular problem. Because you have technology solutions which are cheaper, you have technology solutions which are far more sophisticated and far more costly. So now the problem is not that whether we should be investing in technology, but the bigger problem is that one, what do I want to achieve by investing in the technology? Second, what is the right way to do it? So I think these are the two questions which will be asked more. I also agree that cybersecurity and investment in the entire InfoSec is the need of our. The more we work on technology, the more we become digital, the more we become connected, the more challenges we face in terms of cybersecurity and hacks and all that. So that is also an important piece that has to be the investment has to go in.
Right. I'll take the same question to Rohit. I was asking about spend in technology and discovering new growth areas as you track and map customer demand.
Yeah, I see all the panelists are aligned out here because the new way to work is digital, right? So you have to invest in that area, and you are spoiled for choices out here. You really have economies of scale. If you have your solution put right, you can have economies of scale. As I say, sometimes in a very simple way, put one server, you can serve out to tens of thousands of clients, right? So if your solution is rightly architected, you can get economies of sales, and that is the advantage of technology. And that's why we have to choose the right technology. Don't get excited so much that you go down to implement a technology and forget what you're trying to solve, which customer problem you're trying to solve. Don't ever lose sight on that. Always use the technology to solve the customer problem, and that's when you'll start delivering for the company, and you'll be getting the right ROIs.
Absolutely, Rohit, and it has been an absolutely enthralling discussion. So very interactive and wonderful, engaging with all of you. We've run out of time, so I will. Okay, you have a last point to make.
No, so I think Rohit mentioned about solving problems. We haven't discussed about SIPCO's mother's voice, which is about really that human touch. So we will solve that problem. Axis Bank, she happens to be Axis Bank customer, so I'm more concerned about it. So Axis Bank Dil Se Open campaign is meant to do that. SIPCO will solve it very soon as the pandemic is taking a bit of a better shape.
Sure. And at this point, I will now invite Gayatri Krishnamurthy. She's a Senior Director of Marketing at Exotel to come online and please deliver the concluding remarks. Gayatri.
Hi, thank you so much. Thank you so much, panelists, for your time this afternoon. We had a wonderful time listening to how you, as pioneers in your organizations and in the industry have adapted to the current times. Over the last year and a half, I think we've seen a lot of changes in the way organizations work. And at Exitel, we've had a front row seat to this transformation. While we always knew that cloud communication is set to change the way enterprises look at customer interactions, this pandemic has definitely accelerated that change. The financial services sector has been the fastest in adapting to this change. And going beyond just the adoption, I think you guys have become pioneers in using technology to satisfy the demands of the customer as well as the demands of the business. And with the pandemic taking away the physical touch points like we've been discussing, it's become important to invest in technology and processes that are able to anticipate the needs of the customers and provide a personalized experience. And like we've all been talking about, I think customers have become savvy enough to now ask for a personalized experience that is not intrusive or gimmicky and has the right amount of involvement to make them feel valued. And on top of this, this entire experience has to move towards being channel agnostic. And like all the panelists rightly mentioned, I think it's about bringing together the human interaction with the technology and creating a balance that works. I think all of us have our jobs cut out for ourselves. And the other perspective that we sort of started discussing was from the employee's point of view, right? Jobs have suddenly become deskless. And we've always maintained at Exitel that we wanted to remove the center or the call center. And what we mean by that is that there are conversations happening outside of your call center. And these are happening outside of your traditional office setup, right? And these are the conversations where the real business happens. This is the voice of the customer. And these are the conversations that we believe need to be watched and harnessed for a better customer experience, because these are the conversations that define the brand. And with all of us moving to a primarily remote and work from home model, the shift to remove the center out of the call center has also been happening quite seamlessly. I once again thank all the panelists for their time and sharing their experience of reimagining customer communication as they see it today. Thank you so much.
Gayatri, as we talk about customer communication, I'll end with an anecdote. This was in 2012. Pranab Mukherjee was the finance minister. He was briefing reporters after a hard day's work in the parliament. It was an off-camera briefing. He got a call. Somebody wanted to sell him a loan. And then he disconnected. He got a call again in 5 minutes' time. It was from a PSB. And he now had to tell the person that he's Pranab Mukherjee, to which the person said, "It's all right, we also give loans in Bengal." On that, yeah, he was a finance minister, imagine. On that note, I would like to thank all of you for taking the time out. It's been exhilarating discussing this topic with you. It's a very engaging discussion. Alokeshda, you've been a wonderful co-moderator. Thank you so much. Thanks to Exitel, to Shivku as well as Gayatri for allowing this conversation to happen today. Thank you.